Most of you out there are going to be aware of groups like Bloomberg, Everytown, Moms Demand Action, the Brady Campaign, etc. Fact is, they're all pretty much the same group. They're usually run by the same people and funded by the same sources. And they love to spread the same, let's call them anti-gun myths. They're actually lies, but let's call them myths. I want to do a series of videos over the next few months that address some of these anti-gun myths. And I want to take these myths to task and maybe dispel them, not through innuendo and half-truth, but through logic and math. Now, one myth that they all love to spread is that stricter gun laws help stop violent crime. Therefore, states with stricter gun laws should have less violent crime. The Brady campaign even rates states by how strict their gun laws are. If you have strict gun laws, you're a good state. If you have loose gun laws, you're a bad state. They make a list, they rank them from 1 through 50. The lower the number, the better. If you are in their top 10, that means you have the strictest gun laws and therefore should have the lowest accounts of violent crime. If you're in the lower 10, say 41 through 50, you have the loosest gun laws and therefore, by logic of what they say, you should have the highest violent crime rates. Now, before I go on with this video, I want to say that these lists are taken directly from the Brady Campaign's website. I was reading the Brady Campaign website, and I found this list on there, so I started doing a little bit of digging. Now, the numbers I use along with their list are compilations of data from the FBI, the United States Census, etc. Now, I tried to use numbers that were from the same year. So there might be numbers out there that are a little bit different than the numbers I show you, but remember, these are from a couple of studies that combine all the relative available data and are from the same year. But I've noticed that even when there is a year difference, there doesn't seem to be much change. Like maybe one state will switch places with the state above or below it. But other than that, the states on the list stay pretty much the same. The rankings stay pretty much the same on both lists. So that being said, let's continue with the video. Let's take a look at that Brady campaign list of best and worst states right now. Let's look at their best states and their worst states. Their 10 best and their 10 worst. Now, when you look at their 10 best, it's, of course, California is their number 1. Remember, number 1 is the best state and number 50 would be the worst. So like I said, in number 1 is California, and it goes down through Connecticut, New Jersey, Maryland, New York, Massachusetts, Hawaii, Illinois, Rhode Island, and Delaware. Those are the states with the tightest, most restrictive gun laws. Therefore, by their logic, they should have the lowest violent crime rates. And if you go over to their worst list here and you work your way up from, I guess, the least of the worst up to the worst in the 50 position, you work your way up from Utah, Montana, Kentucky, Kansas, Mississippi, Vermont, South Dakota, Wyoming, Alaska, and finally in the worst position, Arizona. These states have the loosest gun laws and therefore, by logic, should have the highest crime rates. Now let's actually look at how each one of these states ranks as far as violent crime is concerned. Which ones have the highest and lowest occurrences of violent crime per capita? Surely the 10 best states will have the lowest rates and the 10 worst states will have the highest rates. Now in this category, the higher your number, the better. The higher your number, that means the less violent you are. If you're number 1, that means you have the highest violent crime rate. If you're number 50, that means you have the lowest violent crime rate. Now when I put these numbers in, any number that's 26 through 50, meaning they're safer than that medium divide, they're going to be in blue. Any number that's 25 through 1, meaning that they are less safe or more violent than that median divider, they're going to be in red. Surely there'll be more red under the worst states than there is under the best states. But when you put the numbers in here, immediately you see there are twice as many red numbers over on the Brady 10 best states than there are in the Brady 10 worst states. That just doesn't make sense. If stricter gun laws mean less violent crime, then why are there twice as many states that have higher violent crime rates in their best states list than there is in their worst states list? It doesn't make sense. In fact, if you just look at the best state, the number 1 state, the best state that Brady ranks, California, it's number 14 in violent crime. If you look at the state they list last, dead last, number 50, as being the worst state, which is Arizona, it ranks 16 in violent crime. That's 2 positions apart. The one that's the number 1 state is 2 positions worse than the state that's in last place as far as Brady is concerned. That also doesn't make a lot of sense to me. And if you look at the state on each list that has the highest violent crime rate, it's an even bigger difference in the way opposite of what you would think. Delaware, under Brady's 10 best states, is the 7th most violent state in the union, where over here on the worst states list, it's still Arizona at 16. That's an even bigger difference, that doesn't make sense. In fact, when you look at the Brady 10 worst states list, the states that should, by Brady logic, have the worst violent crime rates, 6 of the states that make up this list of 10 also make up 60% of the top 10 safest states in the Union. These 6 states are 6 of the 10 states in the United States that have the lowest violent crime rates. That makes no sense whatsoever. If your goal is to prevent violent crime, why would 6 of the safest states in the Union be on your 10 worst list? And then when you look at Brady's top 10 best states list, 2 of the states on that list are actually 2 of the most violent states in the Union. They make up 2 of the top 10 states with the highest violent crime rates in the United States. Yet Brady is applauding these states as perfect examples of what to do to reduce violent crime, while they are 2 of the worst states in the Union. That doesn't follow any line of logical thinking as far as I can tell. Now let's add one more little wrinkle. Let's add which states on these 2 lists fall in the FBI's most dangerous states list, their top 10 most dangerous states. There's only 3 states on these 2 lists that make the top 10 most dangerous states. That's Maryland, Delaware, and Alaska. That's 2 on the top 10 best states and only 1 on the top 10 worst states. That's 2 to 1. That's twice as many on the top 10 best states list. That's not a good ratio. And Alaska is kind of iffy. Alaska's a little on the fence. You might ask yourself, why is it only ranked 23rd in violence, but it's also ranked as one of the most dangerous places according to the FBI? Well, like I said, this is kind of a consensus data over here. It's the census, it's FBI, etc. And it puts it kind of in the middle of the field. It's 23rd. That's almost a blue number. It's kind of iffy. It's kind of in the middle. It kind of be a purple number. But one thing Alaska does have is a lot of rape. It seems that women get raped a lot in Alaska. It's like the rape capital of the world. It's definitely the rape capital of the United States. And the thing about those rapes in Alaska and some other violent crimes is they tend to happen predominantly with indigenous people on tribal lands. And those people are often underrepresented in things like censuses and a lot of other criminal data. But the FBI does keep track of it. So you could actually say in Alaska, unless you are an indigenous woman on tribal lands, it's a pretty safe place. It would probably actually move into a blue number and definitely wouldn't be on the top 10 most dangerous places. So the 2 that are in the top 10 best states that are some of the most dangerous places in the nation, they're dangerous places. Alaska, you could actually make an argument that it's only dangerous if you fall into a certain population group. So after you look at all these numbers, it's kind of hard to say they support the hypothesis that Brady is putting forward that stricter gun laws help prevent violent crime. In fact, it's the opposite. It seems like states with stricter gun laws have more violent crime. At least they rank higher in the violent crime rankings. States that have stricter gun laws tend to be more likely to be on the bad side of those numbers than they do the good side of those numbers. So when you look at these numbers, you really have to start wondering, is it really about reducing crime? Is that really their goal? Do they rate states on who reduces crime best, or do they just rate them on who takes guns out of the hands of citizens? And if it's the latter, you have to start asking yourself, are these billionaire elitists like Bloomberg and the people that run the Brady campaign and Moms Demand Action, etc., are they actually trying to create a peaceful society, or are they trying to create a helpless one?